What's up, guys? Now that I've had this bike a little longer, I just wanted to do a video reviewing it, giving my thoughts. After owning it for a couple months, putting a few thousand miles on it, I just had to turn it off right there so I don't kill the battery. But this is my 2007 Yamaha FZ6. It is a 600cc liquid-cooled inline 4-cylinder engine, fuel-injected, 6-speed. It's really comparable to the R6. People make that comparison a lot. It's tuned differently and the engine isn't completely the same. Power levels are tiny bit different. The seating position's a bit different. It's not as strictly sport oriented. This is more of sport touring, so you still have the capabilities of sporty riding, which I do quite a bit, and then long distance rides, so it stays comfortable. Getting into it, it has a black aluminum frame. 06 was the first year they did the all blacked out underside like that, which is a big thing that I like. The engine is a stressed member of the frame, which really helps with vibration, so you don't get all the vibration through the handlebars. Really cuts down on the uncomfortability of that. With the exhaust, I absolutely love the exhaust on this. I'm not a huge fan of the side pipe exhaust, so it goes 4 to 2. I believe it goes 4, 2, 1, back to 2, or 4, 1 to 2, and it comes out in the back right here. There's my license plate. But it has a really nice look to it. I'm having a hard time finding aftermarket exhausts that look quite as good as that, because I really like that. I might custom take that heat shield and put it around an aftermarket exhaust, get the nice sound, but retain that original look, which is really nice to me. But what makes this one a bit different than the R6 is it has different cams and intake, and it's tuned for more accessible power, so lower RPMs, you get the power a lot quicker. And though it is not strictly sport oriented or more sport oriented like the R6, the suspension is very sport biased, so it helps with all that, and not just lazy riding, if you want to call it that. Power wise, it produces 96.5 horsepower at 4750 RPM and 46.5 foot-pounds of torque at 6440. The compression ratio is 12.2 to 1, and the fuel injectors, they're 36mm throttle bodies. The clutch, it's 6-speed with a multi-plate clutch. It's really heavy duty, so if you want to go hard on it and sometimes you might be a little high in the RPMs, you drop it, it won't really kill the clutch like some bikes. I believe I thought I turned it off, but it showed my lights still on. But that's one thing I really like the bike. I've messed up a couple times where I shouldn't have done it so hard, and I did. Let me put down my paper real quick. I just put down a couple technical facts so I get everything right, because I don't want to throw anyone off of anything. The front suspension, it's a 43mm telescopic fork, 5.1 inches of travel, so it's really comfortable in the front. I really like it. The brakes, front brakes, it's dual disc 298mm floating discs with a 4-piston caliper. Rear brake is a single disc 245mm disc with a single piston caliper. Rear tires, they're both 17 inches. Rear tire is 180/55. Front is 120/70. So pretty standard tire sizes for both. The standard sport bike size diameter. Length overall, it's 82.5 inches. Not the shortest bike, not the longest. Width, 29.5 inches. So if you have to get through a tight space, it's not really difficult to do. Seat height, 31.3 inches. It's definitely not the shortest bike. Sometimes I can stand flat-footed on it, but sometimes some positions I kind of have to be up on my toes a little more. I'm 6 feet tall, so it's definitely not the lowest seat height of all the bikes. My brother has an FZ1, so the 1000cc version, and it has a lower seat height than this. So it's just, I guess that's just a different tweak they made to it overall. The fuel capacity is 5.1 gallons. I average about 41, 42 miles per gallon, and I ride the bike hard. It's rated at 50, 52 sometimes. If I go real hard, stop and go traffic like downtown Chicago, average like 35, but that's really getting on it all the time, which I enjoy doing. As long as you take care of the bike, it'll take care of you right back. The dry weight is 410 pounds, definitely not the lightest of its class, but you won't really feel all that little bit of extra weight when riding. It's really flickable bike. You really don't feel it much until you come to a stop. Let's say you have your wheel turn, then you'll really regret having that extra weight. But comfortability of the bike, any bike I've been on, even my Enduros, it really does not compare to this bike. It has a really nice plush seat. It's a larger seat, so if you're sitting farther back, your longer rides, it's a nice wide seat so you won't get uncomfortable. Obviously after many hours your rear might become a little sore, but with the rear seat, it's a lot bigger for the passenger than I've seen many other bikes. It has nice, really solid, sturdy cargo rack. It has some scratches from always putting the bungee cords and stuff on there because I like to carry my tripod on the back or any other things I might have. The passenger pegs, it's not a terrible position, which is another benefit of having the undertail exhaust, so they can be comfortable as well. The pegs for the rider, they're not directly under you like many sport bikes are, similar to my Yamaha XT250, which is a dual sport. So it's more of a seated position, like you're sitting in a chair, which is a huge bonus. I absolutely love it. Pickup is, like when talking about power, it's as low as 5,500 RPMs, which is a lot better than having to get up to like 7, 8, 9 just to get into the power band, which is another benefit of it being tuned the way it is, which I kind of might prefer a little more than most of the 600 class. It's a bit of a reconfigured engine to the R6. People always make that comparison. It's not the same bike. It's similar, but it's not the same. Might be similar power, similar parts, somewhat similar styling, but they're two different animals. It is actually the fastest in the middleweight standard class, which is kind of a little bragging right about this bike. I don't know how much things have changed with newer bike coming out, but it's one thing I like. Price wise, this bike, you can get these bikes for great prices. I got this one 9,000 miles. I'm at about a little over 12,000 right now. I got 9,100 miles, perfect condition, from a legitimate older guy for $3,200. Most, let's say an R6, I've been looking around, I see people selling older models than this for more money, with more miles too, a lot more miles. So this is a big contender with the R6, even though they're a bit different. It's a lot more comfortable. You can do all the same stuff. It's a little heavier, which, like I said, you won't really feel it. Now to the gauge cluster. There's the odometer. I'm at 12,526 miles, trip A, trip B, and then when you get down to, let's say you use up all the gas, it turns into F trip. So then it tells you basically how far you have to go till you run out of gas, essentially. There's the tachometer, which I really like, opposed to the 2006, which is it's just the circular gauge cluster here, and then the tachometer is digital. It goes around the cluster, which is not as nice in my opinion. I like the more more typical cluster look. The speed, the clock, fuel gauge, which is huge benefit on this bike, huge benefit. Most bikes don't have a fuel gauge, so it's really something I like. And temperature. Now let's turn it on. This, obviously the basic controls, turn signals. This one actually has hazards, which I've used a couple times. It's really nice. Obviously high beam, low beam. The horn, it's not really that quiet of a horn. It's a pretty good horn for a motorcycle. Obviously kill switch, ignition, electric ignition. Adjustable, the brakes, it's really easy to adjust. The clutch is easy to adjust as well. And then with the throttle, just adjust it down there. Now a quick clip of what the bike sounds like. Here it is. Some people don't like it because it's too quiet, so they might change the exhaust. I personally don't mind. A little lower RPMs, it's a little more whirry and whistly, kind of like Triumph Spike sounds, which I really love that sound. There's the idle. It idles at about 1,000 RPM. Has a nice solid sound to it. It's not too loud. When you really get on it, especially in gear and riding, and you crank it, it sounds good. It really starts to sound good around 6,000 RPM. 5,000 is where it starts to make a little more noise. Obviously that's getting more into the power band, so it's so I guess it can be related to that, but here's a quick rev of it. So I really like that sound. It doesn't go lightly, but I might switch up the exhaust. I don't like a lot of the aftermarket exhaust. It just doesn't look as neat and as refined as these do. So I might take these heat shields, custom fit an aftermarket. The video just cut out, so I was just talking about the exhaust. I might keep these same heat shields and get a set of aftermarket exhaust to go in there. If I can rig that up somehow. The tires, I have a 50/50 tire. I use the Dunlop Sportmax Q3. I have no problems with these. Overall, the bike, it is an incredible bike. I'm not gonna get rid of this bike for a long time. I've gone down once on it, small damage. I just had to replace the mirror, which a replacement mirror, it's like 15 bucks. Can't tell the difference between them. The replacement actually looks better than the stock one. And there's a couple scratches here. It broke in there, so I glued the little bracket. And one big problem that I've heard about these bikes, I haven't experienced it because I don't use frame sliders, is if you put the frame sliders on, since the frame is a little lighter weight, it sometimes cracks up in these spots when the whole weight goes down on it if you go down the bike. Luckily, I didn't have any on, luckily or unluckily, but when I went down, this caught nearly all the weight, this bolt right here, so I still have to dig the asphalt out of the bolt and the little spot it goes in right there. But got a couple scratches here. Overall, it's such a sturdy bike. I wouldn't recommend this bike necessarily to beginners, because having started on a 250cc dual sport, I know I would have scared myself plenty of times with this bike, and I probably would have messed up a couple times because it's a bit torquey, and the power is accessible at lower RPMs, which can be a problem for some people. If they're new to riding, they won't necessarily know how to handle the bike correctly. So that's just my take on it. Then again, I'm not here to tell anyone what they should and shouldn't get, but that is just for this bike. This bike is incredible. I'd recommend it to anyone. If you're an intermediate rider, let's say you want to get one as a beginning rider, just be careful with it. I mean, experienced riders, I know a couple people that have these and they absolutely love them. They've been riding for years. This bike is just an incredible bike. Gorgeous, powerful, comfortable. What more can you ask for? It's AJ signing out. I will be hopefully getting a GoPro in the next couple weeks. and I should be doing some motovlog videos, so hopefully I can get up into that, try that out, and I'll just be putting out more content. See you guys later.